Welcome back to the Luther Burbank Home and Gardens. We're here today, and for those of you who have been on the channel since way back in February, the first time we visited the Luther Burbank Home and Gardens, you'll remember that I made a promise at that time that like Douglas MacArthur, I would return, and I was here shooting some vids for the Trans Life vlog channel today, vid, and I decided to come back and shoot here today, and it would also give me a chance on the channel to come back and look at the Luther Burbank Home and Gardens again. For those of you who don't know, Luther Burbank was known as the plant wizard for a lot of his pioneering work to do in breeding new types of plants. The Burbank russet potato that we use for McDonald's French fries was developed right here. The beautiful Shasta daisy that's at the heart of so many fresh flower, spring flower arrangements was developed here. The pluot, the crossbreeding between so many different varieties, the white blackberry, and just so many things we enjoy today were done by the hand of Luther Burbank. He was so important that in 1915, when the Pan-Pacific Exposition was taking place in San Francisco, Thomas Edison and Henry Ford hopped on a train and came up to Santa Rosa to visit Luther Burbank and to spend the day with him. It was important enough to be featured in a postage stamp, I believe, in the 1930s. Anyway, we're here today to look around again, see what's new, check out some of the pretty flowers and things. And last time I was here, none of the roses were in bloom. And you can see over to the right there, Luther Burbank's cottage, his home. And he's actually buried on the property up there in that corner underneath those trees. He and his wife. The exact spot's really kind of unknown, but somewhere on that corner. And this was the modest house that he lived in, and his carriage house up ahead. You can see, amazingly, even though we're in Santa Rosa, California, which is named for Saint Rose of Lima, Peru, Luther Burbank did very, very little with roses in his lifetime. You know, I think in a lot of ways he thought that they were so beautiful. How could they be improved on? So he spent his time on more utilitarian things, mostly things that could be eaten. And we'll see a few of his things today. You can see some of the docents and volunteers work over here to keep the grounds real nice. And you can sort of see the back of his greenhouse. Unfortunately, they don't let people go in anymore, but we can see it from the outside as we go around. And this is the carriage house here. Used to keep your carriage and maybe your horses quartered.
Hi, Vashti. I am here. I've just been talking to Rachel.
I saw you.
You look very pretty.
Oh, well.
How are you, Vashti?
I am fine, and I wished I had known you were going to be here because I thought, oh, Rachel, I've got to ask her. Rachel is...
Pretty plants and things.
You are. You're a walking encyclopedia.
You can see a couple of the Shasta daisies there. They got some great varieties, and these are some of the vegetable gardens they grow. It's more for school kids come over on trips and things to just enjoy a little of the outdoors. Burbank didn't do too much with flowers, but some grapes. This is the Paradox walnut tree. And of course, walnut's a great furniture making wood, but it grows very slowly. So Burbank wanted to develop a tree that would grow quickly, thus proving the paradox of a fast-growing walnut tree. And you can see a variety of his right there. And as we come over here, you can see what looks to be quinces. And if you've never had a quince, They're a fruit that's popular among a lot of Asians. You can't eat it out of hand. It has to be boiled or cooked, baked, and then it has a sweetness to it, so it never really caught on in popularity. And you can buy quince jellies and things. And Burbank developed cherry trees with multi-graft on it. I think this particular cherry tree is known to have like 15 varieties on it. Everyone's different. But I think one of the coolest things that Burbank worked on was the spineless cactus. You know, he thought in the desert cactus grows abundantly, and if cattle could eat cactus without tearing up their mouths on the needles, it might be something commercially viable that ranchers in very dry areas could plant and feed cattle. But the practical realities were such that it just never really caught on. But here's a variety of cactus that you just really don't see. It's really basically a smooth cactus. It might have some really, actually this one has nothing on it at all. So it's pretty amazing what crossbreeding and stuff could do. Come back here to the back of the gardens. And you can see some of these little pods on here on the cactus. They will eventually turn red in color, and people make cactus jelly out of that. It's supposed to be very tasty. So coming over here, you can see some of the kiwis overhead. And kiwis are something that needs a male and a female to pollinate vines. And that's all it really is. And if you look up there, you can kind of see the little kiwis hanging there, ripe for the picking. But Luther Burbank is a member of the National Inventors Hall of Fame for the work that he did. And see what the original home looked like. And there's his garden plot he used to work on. He gained fame because a farmer came to him once and said, I need like 40,000 plum trees or 20,000 plum trees, can you do it? And he was able to fill that order, the only person that could produce those 20,000 plum trees, and people were so impressed that his fame started to spread. But he wasn't content with the way that things were. He went on and developed all these varieties. The Shasta daisy, that beautiful brilliant white with the yellow. Certain varieties of peas, the paradox walnut tree that I told you about, hybrid strawberries, and developed the Burbank cherry, artichoke varieties, and the what McDonald's uses to this day for French fries, the Burbank potato, Gold Ridge apple, which is amazing, and the Santa Rosa plum that I have in my backyard, sunflowers, and of course the plum cod, a cross between a plum and an apricot. You can see his second wife there, who was much younger than he was, and she lived on, I believe, to the 1960s and then donated the property. That was Burbank's second wife. But the interesting thing about Burbank, and I'll tell that story in a second, but there's Thomas Edison and Henry Ford visiting, and you can see our local paper, the Press Democrat. Burbank entertained Edison and Ford up here. So he was quite well known by 1915. But I'll tell you what, Luther Burbank never really cared about money too much in life, to the point that he never really had a hell of a lot of money. He had a seed vault. He had a safe inside of his greenhouse that we'll take a peek at in the door if we can, that he would keep all his varieties of seeds locked up so other people wouldn't get them. And he was always very careful about how he handled his developments. But you know, up until 1932 you could not patent plants. In other words, if you developed a new type of plum or a daisy. You know what? Too bad it was just in the public domain. But then in 1932, probably about 6 years after Burbank died, his second wife, who had the smarts, saw that Congress passed the National Plant Act in 1932, and she rushed to patent all of his genetic developments, and was able to gain the benefit of that. So he married a second cookie, married a smart cookie the second time around, that's for sure. So we'll make our way over and see some of the beautiful mums that are associated with fall here in Santa Rosa. Some of the sunflowers and what we would call in Baltimore the black-eyed Susans that they give to the horses that win the Preakness Stakes, the horse race, a blanket of black-eyed Susans, but of course they're a bigger daisy there. But we'll come over here to something unusual that Burbank developed, and of course the berries are gone now, but a white blackberry. You know, Burbank thought at that time if he could develop a blackberry that didn't stain teeth, didn't stain clothes and everything, it would be a marvelous thing for the culinary world in terms of baking pies and jellies and all that. So he bred a blackberry that was clear. But there was only one problem. You know what people eat with their eyes? And when they saw something that just looked like basically white goo in a pie with no color, no way they're eating that. Okay, no way they're down with the white goo. They wanted the color of the natural berry, and that was a, don't know how much time he took on that. It was an idea that's good in concept, but just failed in the execution because the market was just not ready for that. So, might be a little late in the season. Normally we see some Shasta daisies. I see a few over here, and this was probably one of his most famous developments, the Shasta daisy. Yeah, this whole bed is actually Shasta daisies here, and they've seen better days with the sun and everything. Let's get one in the with the hot sun of summer, that you can see how brilliantly beautiful they are. And that's really the heart of a lot of flower arrangements that florists use, because they hold up really, really well. And we'll try to walk over now and get a peek. We'll walk past the reflecting pool here, where I've done a couple vids today, which I think is just stunningly beautiful over here. I love all the pretty colors. And even though Burbank was born and raised in Massachusetts, his sister lived in California, and he couldn't wait as a young man to seek his fortune and come out west. He hopped a train to San Francisco, and then he went several different places to look around, and he finally ended up in Santa Rosa, and he called it God's chosen place, because the growing seasons are so long and the climate is so good that he chose here to do all of his famous experiments. Isn't that a beautiful sight, that beautiful fountain there? And oftentimes in the afternoon you'll see people reading here and hanging out. It's just a lovely place to be. And people come here obviously from all over the world that have gardening and horticultural interest, to try to learn about Luther Burbank and his contributions to the plant world that we know today. And there's his greenhouse there, and you could see it even had a chimney on it that it could sort of put some heat in there in the winter time. It cost about $200,000 about 5 years ago to raise money to save this greenhouse, because if you look at it, it's not like greenhouses are constructed today. This has sheets of glass going up, and these sheets of glass are about 1 foot wide and about 2 2 feet, 2.5 feet tall, and these weigh a lot, and they rest all on this steel structure here. So the weather, especially the sun and things, really takes a toll on wood. And this is all wood between the pieces of glass, and it gets dry rotted and sun baked. But as we see inside here, and they really don't let you go inside anymore. You might be able to just see peering through. Well, we'll try to get by the front door. You can sort of see his safe sitting open there. His plant safe, where he kept a lot of his, where he kept all of his seeds and things. And there we go. You can see his safe right through there. And his actual greenhouse, which is really kind of cool, very old school. I don't think too many places in America you'd see old school greenhouses like that. But there's a whole corps of volunteers and people, probably numbers 100, that are dedicated to keeping these grounds in tip-top shape. And then his home is open at Christmas time. They serve tea and cookies and things, and the people come in and they can tour the house all decorated for Christmas, and it's really, really lovely. Open 365 days a year. The gift shop may not be open, but the grounds are, and you can always feel free to look around. It's one of the popular stops here in Santa Rosa for tourism. The other one being, that this is the home of Robert Ripley, born and raised in Santa Rosa. Ripley's Believe It or Not fame, and also the longtime home of Charles Schulz for probably 40, 50 years living in Santa Rosa. And Charles Schulz was the creator and illustrator of probably the most famous cartoon strip of all time, the Peanuts characters, and he was a Santa Rosan through and through. Thanks for being here today, and maybe on a future trip we'll take in the Charles Schulz Museum and find a little bit about the background of the Peanuts and all that. Thanks for watching today.